You are not the same person you were a year ago. What if the biggest lie you've ever believed is that you can't change? Think about who you were 365 days ago. The habits, the fears, the excuses. You were a completely different person. The problem isn't that people can't change. The problem is they change by accident instead of on purpose. Most people drift through life reacting to circumstances, letting the year happen to them instead of for them. But here's the brutal truth. Time passes whether you use it or not. You're already changing. The only question is, are you changing into someone you respect or someone you're ashamed of? The person you'll be in 365 days is being built right now in this moment by the decisions you're making today. Change is not optional. Direction is. 1 year of compounding effort is undefeatable. What if just one focused year of effort could make everything before it irrelevant? Compound interest doesn't just work in banks, it works in humans. Every skill you build, every habit you stack, every discipline you maintain doesn't just add, it multiplies. 1% better every single day means you are 37 times more capable by the end of the year. That's not motivation, that's mathematics. The problem is people quit in month 2 because they can't see the results yet. They don't understand that results are delayed, not denied. The tree grows underground before it ever touches the sky. You don't see the root system, you don't see the foundation cracking through the soil, but it's happening. And the person who stays consistent through the invisible phase, that person becomes unrecognizable. That is the secret that nobody talks about. Identity shift is the real work. What if your biggest enemy isn't laziness? It's the identity you're currently protecting. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your identity. People say, I want to get fit, while secretly believing I'm just not that type of person. That conflict between what you want and who you think you are is the wall that destroys most people. You cannot out-discipline a self-image that calls you a failure. The real transformation happens when you stop asking, what do I want to achieve? And start asking, who do I need to become? Because behavior follows belief. When you genuinely see yourself as someone who does the work becomes automatic. You stop negotiating with yourself every morning. You stop bargaining with your alarm clock. Identity is the foundation. Everything else is decoration built on top of it. The environment you stay in determines the person you become. What if the people around you are quietly capping your potential without you even noticing? You are the average, not just of the people you know, but of the conversations you allow, the content you consume, and the environments you tolerate. Your nervous system is being calibrated constantly by what surrounds you. If your environment normalizes mediocrity, your brain stops seeing it as a problem. You stop being bothered by wasted days. You stop feeling the sting of settling. The most dangerous thing about a low-standard environment is how comfortable it gets. You don't feel trapped, you feel at home. And that comfort is the slow death of your potential. 1 year in a radically different environment, new mentors, new standards, new conversations, rewires what you consider normal. That rewiring is transformation at the cellular level. Discipline built in pain becomes power. What if everything you're currently avoiding is the exact thing that will set you free? The moments you want to quit, those are not obstacles in the path. Those are the path. Every time you do the hard thing, when you don't feel like it, you are sending a signal to your subconscious that says, I am someone who follows through. And your brain takes notes. It starts to trust you. Confidence isn't built from success, it's built from kept promises to yourself. Small ones, boring ones. The 5 a.m. alarm, the meal you didn't skip, the rep you didn't cheat, the message you sent when you were scared. Nobody sees those moments, nobody applauds, but they compound silently in your character, and 365 days of that creates a person who is genuinely different, not just in results, but in their relationship with hardship itself. Most people overestimate a day and underestimate a year. What if the reason you feel stuck is not lack of talent, but lack of patience with the right timeline? People expect results in days and abandon strategies that were built for years. They try something for 3 weeks, see no visible change, and call it a failure. But transformation on the outside is always late compared to transformation on the inside. You change before you look changed. You become before you feel like you've become. 1 year is 365 attempts, 365 chances to show up, 365 opportunities to make a decision your future self will thank you for. The person who runs their first mile on day 1 looks nothing like the person crossing a finish line on day 365. Not because they trained harder than anyone else, but because they simply refused to stop. The year ends regardless. The only variable is what you did inside of it. What if I told you that the version of you that you've been dreaming about, the one who's confident, disciplined, healthy, financially free, respected, is not years away? It's not a decade away. It's not some fantasy that belongs to other people with better genetics, better luck, better connections. What if that version of you is exactly 365 days away, and the only thing standing between who you are right now and who you could be is how you use the next 12 months? Let me tell you something most people never say out loud. You are already changing. Right now, every single day, whether you're paying attention or not. The cells in your body are regenerating. Your brain is rewiring based on every experience you have. Your habits are reinforcing your identity, either lifting you or burying you, but they are never standing still. Time doesn't pause while you figure things out. The year is moving. The only question is, are you directing the change or just surviving it? Most people survive their years. They wake up, go through the motions, manage their discomfort, distract themselves with entertainment, and tell themselves, I'll start Monday. Then Monday becomes next month becomes next year, and before they know it, 5 years have passed, and they're still the same person, with the same excuses, and a growing suspicion that maybe, just maybe, things were never going to change for them. That suspicion is a lie, and I need you to hear that clearly. The reason most people don't change is not because change is impossible. It's because they've been trying to change their actions without changing their identity. You cannot outwork a self-image that believes you are a person who fails. You cannot build discipline on top of a belief system that says, this isn't who I am. The foundation of every transformation is not motivation. It is not willpower. It is not a morning routine or a productivity system. The foundation is a simple, quiet, deeply held decision that says, I am no longer willing to be who I was yesterday. That decision, when it's real, when it comes from the gut and not just the mouth, changes everything. Because once your identity shifts, your behavior follows automatically. You stop arguing with your alarm clock because you are someone who gets up early. You stop negotiating whether to go to the gym because you are someone who trains. You stop making excuses for why you haven't started the business because you are someone who takes action. Identity is not the reward at the end of the journey. Identity is the engine at the beginning. Now let's talk about the math, because this is where people don't understand what a single year can actually do. 1% better every day for a year. That's the only promise you have to make yourself. Not perfect. Not elite. Just 1%. You know what 1% compounded daily over 365 days equals? 37 times better. Think about that. The person who shows up every day and gets marginally better is by the end of the year unrecognizable compared to the person who stayed flat. And the person who got slightly worse every day, just 1% worse. They didn't just fall behind. They fell to nearly zero. That's the math of consistency. That's why small daily actions aren't small at all. They are everything. But here's what they don't tell you about that compound curve. It looks flat for a long time. You will show up for weeks and feel like nothing is changing. You will put in the work and see no visible results. You will get discouraged and wonder if you're doing something wrong. You are not doing something wrong. You are underground, building roots. The tree doesn't shoot into the sky until the root system is strong enough to hold it. Your transformation is happening in the invisible phase. Most people quit in the invisible phase. The ones who don't, those are the ones who become unrecognizable. There's another thing I need you to hear, and this might sting a little. The environment you're currently in is shaping you more than your ambitions are. The conversations you have daily, they are setting your standard for what's normal. If the people around you normalize complaining, your brain stops flagging complaining as a problem. If the content you consume normalizes distraction, your attention span slowly erodes without you even noticing. If your social circle has collectively accepted mediocrity, your nervous system will stop feeling the discomfort of settling. And the most dangerous part, you'll feel comfortable. You'll feel like you belong. And that belonging, that comfort, that feeling of being at home in a low-standard environment, that is the silent killer of potential. 1 year in a radically different environment changes everything. New standards, new conversations, new references for what's possible. Find people who make your goals seem normal. Find spaces where your ambition is the minimum, not the maximum. Your environment is not just a backdrop, it is an active force shaping who you are becoming. And then there's the discipline piece, the part that nobody wants to hear, but everyone who's ever transformed their life knows to be true. Every time you do the hard thing when you don't feel like it, every early morning, every boring rep, every conversation you had when you were terrified, every time you delivered when no one was watching, you made a deposit into the account called self-trust. And self-trust is what real confidence is built from. Not results, not approval, not external validation. Self-trust, the knowledge deep in your bones that when you say you're going to do something, you actually do it. That's the compound that nobody talks about. Every kept promise to yourself, no matter how small, builds that account. And a person with deep self-trust is unstoppable. Not because their circumstances are perfect, but because they know with certainty that they will figure it out. The pain you're avoiding right now is the exact material your growth is made of. The hard conversation, the difficult project, the uncomfortable commitment, the action you've been talking yourself out of for 6 months. That thing, that's where your transformation is hiding. Comfort is the enemy in disguise. It feels like safety, but it's actually stagnation. The most uncomfortable thing you can do is also the most powerful thing you can do. And if you can train yourself to move toward discomfort instead of away from it, if you can make that one shift in your relationship with hard things, you will build a life that most people will spend their entire lives wishing for. Here's the final thing I want you to carry with you. You overestimate what you can do in a day. You massively underestimate what you can do in a year. That imbalance is the source of most frustration people feel about their progress. They try something for 3 weeks, don't see dramatic results, and conclude that it doesn't work. They didn't fail at the strategy, they failed at the timeline. Transformation is always delayed from the work. You become before you look like you've become. You change before the mirror reflects it. You win internally long before the external evidence shows up. The person who understands that, who can stay in the game through the delay, through the doubt, through the invisible phase, that person always wins. Not because they were more talented, because they stayed longer. 365 days. That's all. Not a lifetime. Not a decade. 1 year of intentional, consistent, identity-driven action. 1 year of building the right environment. 1 year of doing the hard things. 1 year of keeping promises to yourself when no one is watching. 1 year of refusing to let comfort cost you your potential. The year ends regardless. Every single person in this world gets 365 days. The question is never whether the year will pass. The question is, who are you going to be when it does? Because 1 year from now, you could look in the mirror and not recognize the person staring back. Not because you got lucky, not because something outside changed, but because you decided, truly decided, to become someone different. That decision starts right now. Transformation is not a moment. It is not a breakthrough. It is not a sudden event that arrives when you finally feel ready. It is a daily accumulation of small, intentional, often invisible choices made by a person who decided that who they are becoming matters more than the comfort of staying the same. The gap between who you are today and who you could be in 1 year is not a gap of talent or resources or opportunity. It is a gap of decision. Make the decision, build the identity, protect the environment, embrace the discomfort, trust the compounding, and do not quit in the invisible phase. The person on the other side of this year is waiting for you to show up. What if 1 year from now, you looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the person staring back at you? Not because something bad happened, but because you finally became who you were always supposed to be. What if the confident, disciplined, financially free, deeply respected version of you is not years away, it's exactly 365 days away. 1 year. That's it. And the scary part? The year is going to pass no matter what you do. Whether you waste it, survive it, or absolutely dominate it. Time doesn't care. It moves every single day. The only question is who you'll be when it ends. Because right now, in this exact moment, a version of you is being built. Silently, automatically, by every habit you keep, every choice you make, every hard thing you face or avoid. You are already becoming someone. The only question is, are you doing it on purpose? Stay with me. Because what I'm about to tell you in the next few minutes might be the most important thing you hear this entire year.